他最近不是最近，这几年写了好多书了。我最近有新书出版，他说基本上是他的自传。那么这个我想我们都知道，周教授有多大年纪啊？我们在这个宣布了，不证实。不过呢，就是说他的经历呢，虽然认识他这么多年啊，我每次都觉得他的故事我知道差不多了，结果下次碰到他又讲新的故事，永远有 surprise。所以跟他在一起很有趣味，总是有新东西可以学到的。我今天呢，我猜想我们一定有可以学到很多新东西。那么这个，不过他说这基本上是讲他自己的一些经历。那么这经历当然跟这个大陆、跟台湾、跟美国都有关系。我想我今天请来的几位这个 panelists 也都有他们自己的相当长的经历。当然，今天我们主要是听周教授讲，不过周教授他会把他的讲话分几段，对不对？每一段他会停下来，那么有各位呢更加发问或者更加的意见或者讲自己的 perspective。我想今天有一个原则是这样，我们的主讲人呢是周教授，所以他的讲话长短我就不管了。但是呢，其他几位 panelists 或者下面听众要讲话的时候呢，最好简短一点。我们人也不多，所以我也不硬性规定。我这里有一个 stopwatch， 本来说多少秒，不过现在我想不多，我也不需要这么严格，就大家自己约束一下尽量让周教授发表。不过呢，我相信他也很希望听到我们个人不同的 perspective。周教授，你今天要不要到这讲一下？你讲哪几段？
First, Vera said I talk too much, so you cut me off whenever you want. All right.
That's right. You just reminded me. This is supposed to be English.
Yes.
Okay, sure.
Well, I'm going to go chronological, so that when I stop once in a while, so people can just make comments. Actually, it's not what I'm saying. I don't know what you guys were doing last few weeks, and I was glued to TV to watch Olympics. And when I saw the Chinese young kids, I thought them they were doing so well. I thought of one sentence that I know very well when I was young. It's called China, the sick man of the Orient. And then I read the FOA report and World Bank report on the eradication of poverty in China. I don't know how true it is, but I read it from the World Bank and the two reports, World Bank and FOA. And I could not stop in thinking in Lu Xun's AQ and Mao Chong. And then I see them through Feng Zikuai's cartoon. They're all patched and all this thing. So I thought, I don't know what these young people now, do they know what China was? So I said, I have an obligation before I leave to tell the Chinese young people and say, what China was like in my eyes. Now, it may not be true, it may not be only from one pair of eyes. And well, they said you can read history. But I say history is a compilation of documents and records. But history is made by real people. So I think it is important to people to listen to real people about history if they can, rather than only when you don't find real people and then you read the history. And so you want to see the participant of the history making and these people. So I did not say that I participate, but I was a real observer. I was real observer. I was born in 1925. I stopped. Anybody want to comment anything before 1925? 26, I'm sorry. 1926. I was born in 1926. Anybody want to comment before that? Well, actually, I did not come into the world before that. I came into the world much later when I have a conscious mind. And that was about 4 or 5 years later. So all I remember was the first place I met was Qingdao. I remember horseback riding, going to the beach, tap dancing, playing violin, and all these kind of things. And all my instructors were foreigners. I have Russian instructors, German instructors, American instructors, and no Chinese. Oh yeah, one Chinese. One summer, my mother put me in a sisu, and I have a sisu lao. He always dozed off. So when he was dozed off, but he has to ask me to. He has to ask me to recite. I was reciting. 孟子见梁惠王，王 whack! I felt something hit my head. It was a ruler from the old master. And he didn't say anything. I said, oh, 王岳，君不远，千里而来. I forgot the rest of them, but I look at that. He's falling asleep. All right. Yeah, so I don't have to. So that's all I remember about Chinese. Otherwise, my homeschool, I didn't go to school. I went to homeschool. My homeschool was run by an American Chinese. My doctor was a German Jew. Everything was such a German. And even the bakeries were German. And my even our pet, family pet, was a German Shepherd. And so, but then later on, I met a way back later on, I met a German from Germany in Beijing. He didn't know that I was from Qingdao. So he said, well, you know, this place in Qingdao is more German than any city in Germany. I thought it was a Chinese. And so I started to think back, yes, we don't have buses. We have a horse carriage, they're German. We even have a German police chief. So everything was German. And then, the very good harbor. In the harbor, we have warships. They all fly flags with stripes and stars. They're nothing Chinese. Well, China was not the only place I lived. I lived in many other places. Beijing, of course, was the one I was born in. Beijing, Tianjin, Shanghai, Hankou, Nanchang, but all in the concessions. Never been in China. Even in Hankou, I was in concessions. In Shanghai, I have two relatives, one in the French concession, one in the international concessions. So, and then I remember the only places of Shanghai and Nanchang. Beijing, the only place I remember was I was born in an American hospital, Xiehe. That's American again. So, well, the only place is Jiangxi, that's Nanchang. Nanchang was the most orderly place I've seen, and to me, it's a spreadsheet. 经一路、经二路、经三路、纬一路、纬二路、纬三路. My father said it was designed and built by a communist. And you know the name of the communist who built Nanchang, Jiang Qingguo. Yeah, he was a communist when he built it. He was an international communist, and he just returned from the Soviet Union and he built it. So, so one day I was arguing with a lot of American friends. One day I was arguing with this other friend, name is Dietz Carter. I told him, I said, the best place in the world is China. China has the best life. Chinese have the best life. He said, he never been to China. He said, do you do you have electricity? Oh, of course. Do you have cars? Yes. Now, do you have running water? What are you talking about? Do you have a washing machine? We don't need washing machine. We have washing woman. He says, who washes for your washing woman? Wham! All of a sudden, it hit my head again. I thought it was a teacher, but I never thought of that. All the Chinese I met, besides my relatives and my family friends, they were 拉洋车的、倒垃圾的、叫卖的、补鞋的、要饭的。I don't know any other Chinese. So then, while I was thinking about that, I heard this was concept. You are not a Chinese. You are just the 1% intellectuals that leech on the Chinese people. And you call your own culture as the culture of the Chinese people. Actually, it's not the Chinese people. The culture is your own culture, the 1%. Well, I started thinking, but does it make sense? I don't know. Well, thank you. 1937. Lew Chow. Yeah, a Japanese attacked Lew Chow. I think I better stop here. Somebody comment between 1926 and 1947.
I have a question.
Yeah.
Do you think you can finish before midnight?
That's what Vera said. So I said, I want you to cut me off.
Okay. So just
no, when I come to play the years that you guys know, I'm going to speed up.
Just keep that in your mind.
All right.
If you don't want to drag too long. Okay. I think your story is very interesting. But
Anybody
anyway,
want to comment? Between 1926 and 1937?
The communist rebellion in Jiangxi.
I didn't know what communists were.
You were blessed with a lot of contacts with international people, Germans and Americans. And at that age, that's very unusual.
Do you call it blessed or do you call it
curse?
Curse. I think it's blessed because
well,
not many.
I didn't say that. Well, to all these places I met, they were all concessions. They're all things. So 1937, Lew Chow, and I was told that it was that in a morning roll call, the Japanese missed the soldier, and so they marched over the bridge to look for the soldier, and they never stopped. They kept marching and marching and marching, and until one day that came to our house. We were in Hankou. We were in the concessions, of course, and then the refugee come. The refugee was relatives from Beijing. So my mother turned our house, our yard and tennis court and everything, and put a big mats, draw mats up there for wounded soldiers. And first was the refugee camp was my relative, and then my father was working on the railroad on the Yuhan Tianlu. So sent all those guys down the railroad to Guangzhou and out of the way. So then bombs fell out in Hankou. So my mother converted the yard into ward. Our first floor is all operation rooms, emergency rooms, and our second floor, I remember. Besides, we all stay in one room, and the other rooms converted into something like intensive care and all these for the wounded soldiers before they get transferred somewhere else. And so we stayed there. I was very happy. Well, my mother has been telling me about the Opium War, the Jiawu Sea War, and the 918, the ER-8, and all this. Never registered in my mind. All I thought I was very exciting. I really wish that I were there to see the wars, and especially the sea wars. I like it very much. But then, when it came to us, and then when we heard bombardment from the road, not from top, from the bombardment road. My mother took me up to the mountain and thought it was safe because there was only one road to the mountain, but the Japanese surrounded the mountain. And so we have to, in the middle of the night, we have to come down and sneak out. And then everywhere was chaos. So we were, luckily my mother had a lot of students. So they were from one place to another. They took us and then handed us another one. So in 1 month's time, I went through Hubei, Jiangxi, Hunan, Guangdong. Finally, we got to the seashore and got nowhere to go. My mother took us to Hong Kong. And I have an uncle there. The uncle took us in. In the colony, that was Hong Kong was a colony. In the colony, and the patriotic spirit was very high. And every day you can hear students and laborers singing, 起来，不愿做奴隶的人们. And then we say the other one, 中国不会亡，中国不会亡. And then also, 我们都是神枪手，每一个子弹对着一个敌人. You know, all these songs we always would say over and over again. And the colonialists let us do that. And they have a laissez-faire policy.
Could I interrupt you? I'm still waiting for you to tell us how many sections are you're talking to.
All right.
So, second one.
My section one is 26 to 37. And the second one.
Wait a second, not here, but what event? What's a crucial breakpoint? 27 to 36.
The first one is
36 is the year.
I grew up not in China, in the occupied China.
Right.
The second part is I grew up my time in China.
Second part from 36 on.
From 41 on.
So the first section is from when you were born to 41. Then the second section starts from 41.
41 to 40.
Why 41? What's the significance?
41. Well, I will tell you.
No, you have to tell
No.
us because we need to ask questions. We have to know.
This is a key point.
Okay. All right, 41 to what?
No, for 41. No, I shouldn't even have. I told you 41.
Okay, 41.
So I was in Hong Kong. And
How many sections are you going to make? How many sections?
Concessions.
Yeah, to 41.
China, and a little bit Burma, and then Taiwan, and then America, and that's it.
Okay, so would you stop at the end
Yes.
of each section?
I already did.
Okay.
I did 37.
Okay, very good.
Nobody commented. So my mother was a super patriot. She also grew up under the concessions, and she knew all these arrogance of the colonialists, and she didn't like it. So she was so to go back and run away from one colonialist, the Japanese, into taking refuge in the other colony, British, and it hurt her very much. And the worst yet was that my big uncle, my big aunt, was the daughter of Kwang-nan, who was the puppet head of North China, and my mother considered a Hanjian traitor. So we were in her home, so she couldn't stand it. But at that time, Japanese already took the entire railroad, and my father just got lost. We didn't know where he was. So my mother had to take up the responsibility to feed all five of us. So now, my mother sort of made a peace with the colonialist, but me, being my mother's son, I could not do that. So I started my anti-colonialist movement.
All colonialists, not just one particular colony.
All colonialists, because she grew up in concessions.
But you escaped. Your family escaped from one
colonialist and
another.
going to take a refuge in the other colonialist.
But weren't you grateful to the one that accepted you?
No, not grateful. She could not. Well, she did not say grateful, but she really hated it. She said, how low down could I be? Run from one colonialist and take refuge
But
from
at least
another
you have a
colonialist.
place to run to. Otherwise, you have no place to run to.
Well, you may feel thankful. She didn't feel thankful.
But what about yourself? Thinking that.
In myself, I didn't feel thankful.
You
So
agree
I
with her?
started my own revolution. So in Hong Kong, for example, we will go to the Indian Sikh policeman. We would just spit right in front of him, but no spitting. So he started run, and we run. We can always run over him. So my mother found a job, got a job in Macau. So we went to Macau. There was another colonialist. My mother made she said, oh, they didn't start a war and then we'll give it to them. But to us, it's still colonialist is a colonialist. So we started to gather the school children. We started to fight the Portuguese kids. And we start to, at night, we'll go out, we have make slingshots, we'll shoot the street lamps. Because that was 3 hours, it's patriotic. When my mother saw that, she said, oh my God, I don't want to raise my children to be another boxer patriots. They're patriots, but they're not boxers there. So my mother said, we have to go. We have to go into China. So that was 1941. We went into China. And I remember the first thing I went to a place of no electricity, no running water, no flush toilet, not even road. And the first day of school.
What part of China was that?
Guilin.
Guilin. Oh.
The first day of school, my brother and I will have to buy a shoulder yoke. We never used that before. Put our one end is our bedroll and one end is our belongings to walk to the school, which is 1 hour walk on the dike of the rice paddies. No roads. And when we went there, and it was totally, there's no, we call it no civilization. So I asked my mother, I said, well, if the colonialists didn't come to the coast of China, would Shanghai, Hong Kong be like this? My mother said, probably. That's why you have to go to school. But in school, all we learn are the Western thing, math, arts, music, even sports we like is nothing Chinese, everything's Western. So my mother thought about it, said, maybe after you finish school, one day you can invent something or do something that the Western people will come learn from you. So I thought, well, my mother was, I don't know what she's talking about all this or not. So we were there. And then about before Christmas, that year we have no Christmas, but before that, bomb fell on Hong Kong, Malacca, and Rangoon, Manila, and all in fire. And all of a sudden we have a whole bunch of overseas Chinese students in Guilin. And all of a sudden they lost contact with their family. And the government sent some people and took all the students to Chongqing. My mother and my brother, kid brother was about, I don't know, 7, 10 years old and went somewhere. My father was nowhere to be heard. My sister was stranded in Hong Kong. So we broke into 4 pieces. From then on, we never got together again till today. We never. We only saw each other later on. We found each other. We never got together. And so, and then we were in a school called in Chongqing, right next to, in the suburb of Chongqing, is called the Qijiang. And we were there, and life deteriorates to way down. And our meal, our daily meal was 1 rice with 10 raw beans, and at night we feed it all back to the bed box. And that's and I got sick with a incurable disease. And so there were only 3, a lot of people got sick, but there were only 3 students got sick like that. So the school took the 3 and put it in a peasant's home. So we stayed in a peasant home, and we call it 太平间, waiting to die. And my brother could not stand that. My brother came every day and watched me die. And so finally one day, my brother said, no, you have to go. I said, I cannot go. No, we have to go. We have to go to Chongqing to look for some relatives. So we got up and I had a high fever. I had to, there are some buses going on, but we have no money to ride bus. So we walked. And I could not, my shoes were all made of paper. The shoe soles are made of paper. It's all in part. So I wore the sandal, and the sandal cut my feet, so I had to wear barefoot. And with fever, when it gets too high, there's a stream going right along the road. My brother just dumped me in there until the cut down in here. So by 50 kilometers, it took us 2 days to walk to Chongqing. And then after that, well, we found a relative, and not long afterward, Japanese came to Dusan. Dusan is in Guizhou. In Dusan, the armored truck can roll into Chongqing in 1 day. And fortunately, the resistance dug up all the roads so that they couldn't go. The Japanese could not walk, by the way. The Japanese, either on horseback or armored truck, they cannot walk, not like Chinese. So sort of, Chongqing was sort of waiting to be taken over by the Japanese. At that time, my brother and I said, what are we doing this? We're still running 孟子剑武, 梁惠王, and still learning mathematics. We said no. So we quit school and we enrolled, we enlisted in the army. In 3 days, we found us in India, Assam, India. In 1 week, we were 3 days, and after we stayed there for another 3 weeks, and we were put on a cattle train, and shipped all the way to Lido at the border of India, and then in 1 week we reached Myitkyina, and we were in Myitkyina for 4 weeks. 4 weeks afterward, we were sent to the front. We were ordered to attack Bamor. So we attacked Bamor, and after we took Bamor down, and we were immediately flown back to China to attack Guangzhou. So on our way to Guangzhou, Japan surrendered. 1945.
How old were you then? At that time? How old were you?
I was 26 to 45. It's what? 19.
19.
Any comment?
Okay.
Myitkyina is in northern Burma.
Yes.
I was there.
We marched all the way from Myitkyina to Bamor to attack. No car.
That's all mountains there.
And we saw, as we walked down and we saw the cars coming this way, they were all the Americans. They were beaten. They couldn't take Bamor. So they sent in the Chinese troops. So we took Bamor. When they come down, they were all beaten. And we speak a little bit English. And they said, give them hell. We said, we are trying to replace you to fight that. Why do you want us to go to hell? We didn't know that they were going to ask us to give hell to the Japanese. So we didn't understand that. So it's all that kind of thing. So we were.
The flying tigers were there, weren't they?
No, flying tigers in Kunming, they never came up.
Never came up.
But they did. I don't know whether it's flying tiger or something. All our rations were airdropped. So we cannot carry. We only carry our own stuff and carry the weapons. Because we had to march down to Bamor, I don't know how many miles. Then we start fighting, and then all our rations were airdropped.
Okay. Let me take a pause since we have a sizable crowd here. Let me introduce our speaker and panelists again. You all know our speakers already, Paul Chow, of course. And let me also introduce our panelists from the very right, that's Dr. Toh-bin Lim, and well-known surgeon, practiced so many years around here in Southern California, and very talented, besides a lot of things besides medicine. And our next is Shen沈思禮, Engles Shen, and he was one of the pioneers of the San Fernando Valley Chinese Cultural Association. Was one of the early presidents. maybe once or twice. Maybe at least once, right? Maybe twice.
Yeah,
maybe
once.
twice. Yeah. So it really established the foundation for the Chinese Association. Then next to Paul is Angela Lew. Angela has been a long time member of the Chinese Cultural Association too, and he was one of the very early member of the Jianhua She. Has done so much work in rural libraries in China. I think under her leadership, about 200 libraries has been established in rural China. And she has been at CEC Library for many years and very experienced library business, of course. And, so I'm your host, and I'm also the owner of this house, and welcome you to come here, and especially some of those friends I've seen for a long time. Okay, and so this is a pause for us to ask you more questions.
Yes. Before asking questions, I want to say something about Dr. Lin. In the family, we have two Dr. Lin. One is Lin, one is Lim. And I call them the barefoot doctors, because at the beginning, we got all these Chinese students coming in here, and they didn't have anything. They came in with $5 in their pocket. So we give them tuition, everything. But whenever they got sick, we couldn't even buy insurance at that time. So whenever they got sick, I call up either this Lin or that Lin. That Lin is Lim and Lim道Min. They always took care of them, no charge, no charge. They even come right to the house. That's Dr. Lin. Yes.
Yes.
Winston, yes.
I mean, I know Toh-bin, but you are talking about way back.
Way back, the first batch of Chinese students,
Well,
1980s, 80s.
Yeah. But
He
not,
returned to
but not-
Taiwan.
but not in, you didn't know that in China.
No.
No,
I
I
was
met them
here.
here.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, they're barefoot doctor in the valley.
Yeah.
Just went
because
back to Hawaii.
I know Toh-bin and I know Lim. Okay. But I thought that you are talking about way back.
Well, that's way back. To those people, that's way back.
Okay, all right.
Back in the 80s. Yeah.
Or do any of you know that the first bomb was not dropped in Pearl Harbor, was dropped in Malacca?
I thought the first bomb was dropped in front of my house, and I was 9 years old, and I saw the bomb drop
Where were you?
in Hong Kong,
Uh-huh.
and then I was so happy because I know that day is no school.
That's 1941.
Yeah, and then the crater is so small. The crater is no more than about this wide.
Uh-huh.
So no big deal. Boom, like that. I said, wow, no school today. And I was 9 years old. So
It was
my first
dropped
thing-
everywhere. We didn't know. I didn't know about Pearl Harbor until a few years, until after 1945.
Hmm.
Before 1945, I didn't know that was dropped in Pearl Harbor.
Engles, where were you then?
Was in Shanghai.
Shanghai.
In Shanghai, I born in Shanghai. Never left Shanghai until what is the 1939? No, 1949.
So you actually stayed in Shanghai through the occupation.
Yeah,
German
so
occupation.
actually, I was born in 31.
Mhm.
And I don't know if it's lucky or unlucky. And at that time, it's already, I think it's in Japan, it's already, occupying, controlling the Shanghai. And you said in 1945 that I was just graduate from the primary school. 小学毕业的那个时候，所以一直就没有离开 until 49, yeah, to Taiwan. So what you said, I know nothing, but only thing I know that time say like Wang Jingwei, 他这个是我只是听到有个传说，就是说汪精卫是蒋介石派到上海去的，这种情形，那就是说，他避免这个中国人给这个日本的统治的那种情形的，也许是就是非常就是说在痛苦的之下，就是说也许能够缓和一点，就这样这个理解。但是事实如何，我们都不知道。
Well, maybe that's why you survived.
对啊，所以就是我们在上海的生活都还不错，还可以说还过得去。OK， 那么没有受过像你们这种情形，所以说我们非常就是说是幸运还是悲哀，我们不知道这种怎么来定义这种情形。
I do want to add one thing to what Shen沈思禮 said. I heard about that too. That Wang Jingwei and Wang Keming, but Wang Keming was the North China, and Wang Jingwei was Central and Southern China. And Jiang Jieshi asked them to stay, actually begged them to stay, to say that I want one thing. Don't let the Japanese get the Chinese to fight the Chinese. That was the only thing. And so Wang Keming, I knew a little bit better, same as Wang Jingwei. Wang Keming's daughters stay our house, if you respect, for a long time. And Wang Keming always told his children, said, well, his oldest daughter was my aunt. And then he told the younger daughter, said, now you watch, Chiang Kai-shek is going to come and let me out. Because Chiang Kai-shek asked me to do the first thing is to prevent the Japanese in getting the Chinese to fight the Chinese. That was one thing, which is very important. It's not only physically, but spiritually, it's very important that Chinese don't fight Chinese. And then when in 1941, let me say 1941, 1940, 1943 or something. And my father all of a sudden came back in Chongqing. I saw him just a little bit. And then he left. Before he left, there was a Chinese CIA head called Dai Li. Dai Li asked my father to go to Beijing to talk to Wang Jingwei to take over the guerrilla fighters. You know, there's a lot of guerrilla fighters behind the line, and they were used to be supported by the Kuomintang. And then after 41, Kuomintang had no way to support them. So Chiang Kai-shek asked Dai Li to ask my father to go talk to Wang Keming, because Wang Keming was our relative. So when Wang Keming said, no problem, I take care of all the support from 1941 to 1945, the underground was supported by Wang Keming. So by that, you tie it together. I believe, I'm not sure. I believe the two of them, they were sent by, they were ordered by Chiang Kai-shek to stay. Any questions?
Angela, you're a little girl. As a little girl, you have not born yet, right?
I was born in the end of 43.
Okay.
Yeah.
Of course, you would not be conscious of those important events.
Can I
Right,
get add a
right.
question?
Yes, Winston.
Wang Jingwei, when did he, what happened to him?
Both of them killed by Japanese. Wang Jingwei and Wang Keming. Both of them killed by Japanese.
Then how come Chiang Kai-shek go to Wang Jingwei's place and take all his belongings?
I don't know.
The reason is that my mother, one was in charge of that task. And they take all those paintings, everything from Wang Jingwei's house. And my mother want to keep one as souvenir. So there one flower vase was broken. So my mother took it because the broken is a trash. So she would not say that, you know, she steals things, you know, because the vase is already broken. The top is broken. So that's the only thing that she took. And I got it in my house.
You still have it?
Yeah, but one of the things that my mother was, she grind it. I mean, I wish she didn't grind it. She grind the top to make it level. But that one is from Kwang Jingwei's bedroom. Now I don't know where it happened. That's why I'm asking. But when my mother was sent to get the stuff.
Was sent by whom?
Zheng Zhe said, I guess.
So
Because my mother at that time, she's a leeway.
yes,
She's a
legislator.
leeway.
Yeah, one of the legislators.
And then she directly directed by Zheng Zhe. So I don't know how, you know, in what capacity she went into the bedroom and took all the stuff. So I'm just,
There are still a lot of
I mean, I'm
intrigue yet to be
confused
resolved, of
myself.
course, and maybe it will never be resolved, you know, and it's a very complicated situation.
No, because in those days, it's all word of mouth,
That's right.
and Dai Li is dead.
And,
Otherwise, Dai Li could, anything Dai Li said would be a
well,
Dai Li died.
if you believe what he said.
No, you have to believe it. You have to believe, if it is all,
Well,
if it is
anyway.
all verbal,
Mhm.
you have to believe somebody.
That's right. Well, anyway, I think let's go on to the next.
All right, 1945, Japanese surrender, so, we can go home. No, we were told that. The word retirement is not in the dictionary of Chinese Army. No retirement. You came in here, doesn't matter how you got it. You got forced in or volunteer or anything. You are here forever, for life. So that's all right. So our general, I was in first army. So Shen Liren came, gave us a big talk that I am going to start a big university, a military university, and all of you guys can go into the university and all all this thing. And we're going to have engineering and all these everything. So, but then the next day after he left, we got an order to go to Changchun to fight the communists. That was the first time you asked me about communists. That's the first time I ever heard of communists. Oh no, the second time. The first time I ever heard was Jiang Jingguo was a communist, my father said. And then the second time was that we're going to fight the communists. So I said, I know about Jiang Jingguo from Soviet Union. So I said, is it Russian? No. So who are they? Chinese. No way. And my teaching, in my family teaching, we rather die. So I said, I rather face the firing squad, my brother and I. And I said, we will not point our rifle to the Chinese. So we AWOL. Toh-bin, absent without leave, AWOL. So immediately we were put on wanted list. But fortunately, the army moved north. And so we have to sort of in hiding. So my brother hid in university. He likes books. So he went to a university and went to a university that my father was managing. And I went to sea. So I stayed at sea for 9 years. So from 1945, 1946, I went to sea, and I didn't leave the sea until 1956. So I stayed there for 9 years. Any questions?
what did you do over the sea? You said you went to the sea.
Well,
Doing what?
well, fishing. I fish. Well, fishermen in China, we are not even listed in the 36行。36行，他们说36行，行行出状元。You don't find fishing. You find a peasant farmer, but you don't find fishing. Fishing is lower than. So I went fishing because I go to sea. Now, all the Chinese fishermen, we don't have homes. So from 1946, from 1955, I never had a bed on shore. We always sleep on the boat. Even the boat is in the harbor, we sleep in the boat. If we don't have a boat, we find somebody else's boat to sleep in. We never, so I never had a bed between 1946 and 1955.
Were you just a hired hand?
I was
on the
higher
ship?
hand,
Who owns the ships?
the government.
Which government? Kuomintang, the
Roman
government.
government. Yes. So I started in our base in Shanghai. I fished all the way from Bohai. Then I was based in Qingdao and fished all the way down. And then when Song Ziwen is from Hainandao. He wanted to develop his own country, that is Hainandao. He sent a lot of people there. And the first one was the fishing boat. And the fishing boat, there are only 3 fishing boats there. I went as one, and they assigned me because I sort of like to go to places that people want to go. So I was appointed a captain. I was promoted to captain. So I took one ship down to Sanya, and we didn't go to Sanya. We go to Yulin. So we stayed in Yulin. There was nobody. Only 3 fishing boats. Nothing. No navy. No nothing. It was Yulin, and then we went to swim in Sanya Beach. We don't have to go do anything. We're naked because there's only when 3 of us go, there are 3. 2 of us go. There, Sanya City had only 3 huts and built on top of the water, and 3 fishermen. 3 fishermen. That's Sanya. But today it's a big thing. So I was there, and I never left. I loved it. So then I fished I was in 1949. That's when you left. 1949, I also left. I left in May because I was sent by the fishing company to Taiwan to fish for tuna. Tuna is a different thing from what we used to fish for yellow cokers and for bass, sea bass, and also the suban and all these different. Tuna is big thing. Tuna doesn't stay in the bottom. Tuna is the free citizens. They're democratic people, and they roam all over the ocean. So we have to chase them. So the place we chased them was the closest we go is South China Sea. Near today, the problem is Xisha, Nansha. We fish right there, but we don't want to go to the shores because then we get tuna don't go to shores. Tuna go into deep water. So we fish south of today's Xisha and Nansha and fish there. And guess what? I got caught by the Philippine gunboat, and they said that was their water, and it was something 100, 200 miles away from them, and they said it was their water. What can we do? Our government didn't want to do anything. Government is Taiwan government. They didn't. So we had to pay $2,000 to get us free, and then come out. So then I fish after I fish in the South Sea there. I used to fish. I also fish in their waters. There's Sulu Sea and Celebes Sea. And Celebes Sea is Indonesia. So we fished there. But then Indonesia also got gunboats. So we try to avoid Sulu Sea and Celebes Sea, which has the best tuna. Then we fish in South China Sea. We thought that was ours, but we still get caught. And then I fish in.
Can you fish in the international water?
Fish. What? Fishermen follow fish. Fish has no nationality. We don't have border. We fish anywhere we want.
Where was your market for tuna? Where did you sell
Tuna,
them?
at the beginning, when I was fishing, is Taiwan.
Taiwan.
And later on, Later on, I'll tell you later, I was part of that. To develop it, we started to fish in Indian Ocean. When we started fishing in the ocean, we sell it to the American canneries. Like chicken of the sea and all this, and we send it to them. So we freeze them. At that time, we got freezer.
Yeah.
We freeze them, and then there are ships where big ships come right to the next fishing boat, and we'll unload them. So we stay at sea for something like 3 months, 4 months without seeing shore. I mean, later on. But when I was fishing in Taiwan, we go from, at the longest one was 4 weeks. We go from 2 weeks to 4 weeks. We stay out at sea.
You need fuel.
With a fuel, and then no, not mainly fuel, the ice. So we don't have a refrigeration. So we loaded a boat with ice, and we put the fish under the ice. When we run out of ice, we have to come back. Otherwise, the catch is no good. So we and then I sort of I changed my fishing a little bit. I fished for seaweeds. Seaweeds is these seaweeds are special seaweeds. The only place in the world. And Chow is made by that seaweeds. And the Japanese, when they eat sushi, they eat that seaweeds.
Hunbo.
What do you call it? 炒人海人草.
那另外那个Hunbo
昆布
I don't know. We call it 海人草. And
is the one some of the carp.
and it was in Dongsha. Dongsha was a sandbar with a ring reef. It's an atoll. It's a ring reef, saltwater ring reef. I sank my boat there. And I sank it was a no man island. I was stranded there, marooned there for 30 days. Not me, but our fishermen. Nobody came. Taiwan didn't want to rescue us. So we stayed there for 30 days until there was another boat, a Chinese Navy boat sank there, and the Chinese Navy sent a boat, and so we piggybacked to Taiwan, and the next day I got fired.
Chinese Navy boat, that's Taiwanese.
Taiwanese, that the name is a landing boat
nationalist.
that just evacuated from Guangzhou with something like 30 tons of yuan da tou, silver dollars. So the Navy has to send a boat to rescue them. Otherwise, they probably just leave them there too. So immediately, as soon as that one hit, and the boat come, and because they want to rescue the silver dollar. So we went back with the boat. I even know they're called Zhongxing. So we went back, and I got fired. So I was a captain. I lost a boat. Of course, I got fired. So no complaint. And then,
Is that your fault?
It is all my fault. Of course, it was my fault.
What happened to the boat? I mean,
The boat cannot, just on the reef, cannot come down.
reef?
Yeah.
It-
It's
you need the
underwater
reef.
reef. So during a typhoon, but the typhoon was coming, and I was not supposed to go out, and I went out, and I caught the typhoon.
Wow.
So I tried to get away from typhoon and hit the.
I see.
So I came back, and I got. So I went back to other boats, and I looked for deckhand. So I went back as a deckhand.
But you learn navigation. with
I
that
learned
experience.
navigation. The reason I was there is because I was reputed as the best navigator in the fleet. But the best navigator put the boat
It
on.
was very important when you came to the United States. You sailed from Taiwan
What is that?
because of your navigation experience that helped.
Maybe or maybe not. You have to know. You're a sailor. You have to know navigation. Everybody has to know. So well, after that, I became a fisherman, and then there was no way for me to advance. And because I sank a boat, Taiwan is so small. Everybody knew that. So one day I read on newspaper, and there was going to be there's a place called JCRR, Joint Commission on Rural Reconstruction. It's a organization between the Chinese government and American government to try to, at that time they have a Sanqiwu Jianzhu. They try to get the policy of CEC's policy. The peasants have their own land. So now, but the peasants didn't know anything about all these new technique in farming. So they had this committee in there, and the committee said, well, we cannot, in order to get China up, and you have to get overall to do not just the agriculture, you have to bring everything up. So they they started a program called Study Abroad program for 1 year. They wanted 36 scholars in 36 different fields. So, wow, that was become the talk of the town, because at that time, among the college students, it's called 毕业就是失业. That was around 1951. 1951. 毕业就是失业. So the college students graduated from college, they could not find jobs. So when they heard this, everybody wanted to go take the exam and get to study abroad the program. So what is very special, the last one given was 1946 in Nanjing. And so from then on, between 1946 and 1951, there was none. So this is the first one. And then, very strangely, there are 37 36 行, 37 professions. There was a list of fishing. I said, when did fishing get into a decent profession? I thought we were the worst than the peasants. And then the other thing is that no degrees required. I mean, for the entire thing. And there's a reason, because that main program was for the Taiwanese born Taiwanese. Because Taiwanese born Taiwanese did not have a Chinese college degree. And they may have, and then the Japanese limited Taiwanese in, they can study, for example, medicine, they can study engineering, they cannot study politics, they cannot study philosophy, and all these things, because the Japanese want to control them. So how are you going to get the Taiwanese to participate in this program? So they said no diploma required. Well, I was a high school dropout, and well, that fit me, and there was a fishing. So I applied, I took the exams, and I got it. And then we had the first,
What was on the exam?
What was on the exam? Well, the first exam is called citizenship. It's a 三民主义. So I had went to school a long time ago, and also I was very bad student. I was the last one. So I went to the library and I got this one. And guess what? I opened up the first page. 民生主义就是共产主义. I look at that. It was from Taiwan University, 省立图书馆, and it was original published by 商务印书馆. I look and look. I said, wow. Well, anyway, I have very little time, so I have to study all 三民主义 to take the first exam. First exam, 三民主义, and the second exam is your specialty. Your engineering, your chemist engineering, and then with chemical engineering, or there's no science, only engineering, all the applied.
In your case, it's fishing.
Mine was fishing, so I got it. Oh, I have to dig out all the book on the fish. I'd never been to school, and I was a fisherman, but I don't know about fish, so I had to learn about fish and all these things. So I passed that. And then
you're a fisherman and you don't know about fish.
I know how to catch fish. I don't know. I catch fish and I sort them out, and then it's went to the market, and they find out they keep the price. So I don't know. So then English. I went in there. There was a big long table, and with all these foreigners sitting there, and a few Chinese. And then I sit at the table, and they have to ask a question. You have to say. So I started, well, I said, I better tell them what, I don't want them to find out what what was. So I told them from the very beginning how I joined the fishing fleet because I AWOL, I Toh-bin and all this and that. So all of a sudden I was just talking and this guy stopped me. Where did you learn your English? Well, I learned it from the Norwegians because I have a Norwegian accent. And I spoke with, so I was very heavy Norwegian accent, and this is American. And he said, oh, he's a Norwegian fishing channel. I said, no, they're all from Seattle. So that was, so I passed that, and I passed that English with flying colors. The other one, I don't know. Well, anyway, when the first meeting, we went, all 36 people. I look at them. Wow. We got 3 professors from Taida and chief engineers from the railroad station. And we got the head of the government institute, head of the academic institute, and all kinds of, and even included a defeated mayor in the Taiwan's very first mayoral election. He got defeated and he was there. And then plus the future president of Taiwan was there. Oh, at that time he was not. But Li Denghui was there, Gao Yushu was there. Oh, I look at that, I said, wow, I'm the pauper among the princes. I was the only high school dropout.
I did not realize you were a prince already.
Everybody was prince. So when we came to the United States, we meet in Chicago. We met again. And so the guy who in charge of the program gave each of us a big thick envelope. In the envelope, it's got all kinds of instruction and everything. And then your admission to the university. Some to Gao Yushu to MIT, and Li Denghui to Cornell, and all these to different, university I never heard of. And I waited and waited, and I waited for my, so everybody left until me. I was sitting there and the program director came to me, no envelope. So shook his head. We don't know how to arrange for you because we don't have a school for fishing in the United States. So I look at him and he looked at me and he said, he said, what I did is I called the Fishermen's Union in Boston and he said he will help me out. So why don't you go there? And here is a ticket. And then he says, before you leave, I give you advice. Wherever you travel on Greyhound bus, stay in YMCA, eat at counters, don't at the table, eat at counters. And then, always give your address, general delivery to the next town. The next time you want to go, at San Pedro, general delivery. And I said, what is general delivery? I said, you will know, general delivery. And then, wherever you go, buddy with first thing is the visitor is the union guy. The union guy can you set you up for the next stop, so you can do that. So I said, I got this thing. I got only one this ticket. I looked at the ticket. I couldn't understand. I said, where should I catch this Pullman? Should I go to the airport or the dock? He said, Pullman. That's the railroad. There's a sleeper in the railroad. I didn't know what Pullman is. Anybody know Pullman? What Pullman? So wow, that was the most luxurious travel I've ever had. In
first class.
First class, sleeper.
Yeah.
It's a sleeper car. That was after that, it's all Greyhound all the way. So I went to fish from his advice was very good. So I went from Portland to St. Petersburg, and from on the East Coast, I fished all along there, and I fished then all along the West Coast from San Pedro all the way to Southeast Alaska. And so I saw all of them. I covered everything. And also I have fished all of China coast. So I fished around three entire coasts. I had a good time. And I came out as a deckhand, a youthful. When I went back to Taiwan, guess what?
Could I interrupt you?
I
Could I interrupt you? Toh-bin, what's your American experience? When did you come to the United States?
Oh, you got that? Oh,
Yeah, Toh-bin.
Yeah, I came, actually I came from Burma. That's why I was
Yeah.
talking about.
Yeah. When did you come to the
In
United States?
1954,
54.
yeah, I applied for University of London and Oxford University and passed the matriculation exams. But my family background was such that I could not support myself financially. So I had to look for a place where I could work and attend school. So one of the missionaries in Rangoon, Burma, recommended that I apply some school in the United States where I could work besides attending classes. So I did that, and I got accepted at the school in Michigan. I came here, I worked my way through college, through university, and through medical school.
So how did you come from Burma to Michigan? I mean, how did you travel?
I couldn't afford it. The BOAC at that time was the British airline. I couldn't afford the fare. So I took a cargo ship.
cargo ship.
Took me 6 weeks from Rangoon to New York City. When I arrived in 1954, it was Hurricane Hazel. And when we entered the harbor in New York.
How did you come from Rangoon to New York? Through Europe or through
All the
Panama
way
Canal?
through Indian Ocean, then Suez Canal,
Oh,
Mediterranean.
I see. The other way, yeah. I
The
see.
cargo ship, yeah. So anyway, so I saw dead bodies floating in the harbor because of the hurricane.
Boston.
Anyway, so then I took a Greyhound bus to Michigan. And I
you-
started there in Michigan. And I was very fortunate to have a good advisor. He asked me what I like to study. I said I like to study science. And which branch of science? He asked. I said I like to try pre-med. And he looked at me. He said, financially, you have to be able to get good grades and also support yourself. So that's what I did. I was fortunate to have good grades. The only 2 C's I had in pre-med course was physical education, because when I came to the United States, I didn't know what a strike was, what a touchdown was. And so I didn't get good grades in those. The rest was all straight A's. And the advisor, the counselor was very nice and supported me in many ways. Also advised me where to attend medical school after I finished in college. I got the magna cum laude when I graduated.
Wow.
And so only 2 C's anyway. Without 2 C's, I would have been summa cum laude. Anyway, so I got to be accepted at Johns Hopkins Medical School and University of Michigan, where I was, and also I applied Northwestern University in Chicago. The counselor, the advisor told me that if you want to study surgery, you need to go to a large city where you have many patients and you have more hands-on experience. So instead of going to Ann Arbor, Michigan, a small town, university town, or Johns Hopkins in Baltimore, I chose Northwestern. And I was very happy with that. So I graduated there, medical school, and I was also fortunate to be accepted in the surgery program. Now, one challenge was when I came from Burma. When I left China for Burma, it was Kuomintang. But when I went to Burma, Burma recognized communist China. So when I left Burma, they said I could not use a Kuomintang passport to leave the country. I had to use the communist passport. But if I took the communist passport, I couldn't come to the United States. So unfortunately, we had a family friend who was an immigration lawyer, attorney, who somehow found some way to avoid that difficulty. And he said, you can apply for so-called affidavit in lieu of passport. And with that, I could apply for student visa. So I came to the United States on that without citizenship. So after
you're a man without a country.
Right, exactly. So after 3 years in surgery program at Northwestern University, the immigration office got me, wanted to deport me because I had long overdue as a student because I was getting stipend as a resident in surgery, $125 a month, and they considered that as a salary. So they want to deport me. So I went to my chief of surgery, who was quite powerful in many ways. And he looked at me, he said, well, our university, our medical school would look for our attorney to help you. So for 6 months, they try everything. Immigration office said, you have to leave. But where to? I had no place to go. So finally, my chief of surgery called the chief of surgery in the University of Toronto in Canada, and then arranged for me to transfer to Toronto, University of Toronto. There I met a lot of difficulties because of the jealousy from the fellow residents in training, because they had to wait to get a master's degree in order to get into surgery program. And I was a third year, and I was into third year, and that was very exceptional. So everybody thought, see, who is it from outside? Got right into the third year program. But I finished, I did very well at the finish, and I got my license to practice there. I got a position in a medical school. But my chief had an heart attack, passed away, and they had to find a new chief. When a new chief came, he had brought his own team. So my position in the medical school was somehow shifted. And for that reason, I could not continue on the faculty there. But one day I was invited to come to UCLA to present one of my.
Well, wait a while to listen to that part. Okay, and then let's talk about the early part of the United States. How about Engles? When did you come to the United States?
Well, I come back to the United States 1962.
Oh, you're late.
Yeah.
No comparison with Toh-bin or Paul.
No. Yeah, 62. I came because after graduate from Taiwan College, Tainan College of Engineering, and worked for the Highway Bureau, and for several years.
You mean here or in Taiwan?
Yeah, Taiwan.
Oh, in Taiwan.
In Taiwan, yeah, in Taiwan, and then apply, come to here. I was trying to go to, I like cold weather, so I choose the Minnesota.
Oh,
Yeah, University of Minnesota, and they gave me a full scholarship. I wanted to go, but Helen, my wife, she said, if you go there, you by yourself. So okay, I said, okay, then I'll try. Then I reapply to Berkeley. Okay, Berkeley, and Berkeley gave me also the scholarship, and I just went to the Berkeley. So after that, then I worked for. I was trying to work for the San Francisco company called the Tudor. Yeah. But I didn't stay there because, again, Helen said, well, that street up and down, so it's afraid of driving on that,
Looks
scared.
like you married a very difficult woman.
Yeah, so I said scared to go there, so I said, okay, I come to LA. Then from there, stayed in LA all the time until now. still young.
Now I realize you just married the smartest woman. Without her, you will be nowhere. How about Angela? You came in, you're so young, right? You came in very late, right? Compared to them.
Yeah, in fact, I graduated from Taiwan in '66 in June, and I came to the U.S. to University of Missouri, same year.
Oh,
So I, September 1st.
So you met Liu Ming and Chen Ruicheng and all those guys?
Actually, when I was in the university, I really didn't know any of them.
Oh,
It's here after we met, I realized they
they're from there, yeah.
they were there with,
Chow Zheng-xiong also.
right at the same time. Yeah.
You know, back then, a girl from China or from Taiwan was surrounded by so many boys. You know,
Not me.
she couldn't see those people.
No, I didn't meet anyone of them. Yeah, and I got my master's in 3 semesters, and plus that I worked to support myself. So I was really busy. Yeah, and then after that, I got my first job in Lowell, Massachusetts.
Oh, Lowell, Massachusetts.
Yeah,
That's where Wang is, right?
right. Wang's lab.
Yeah.
That's I worked there for about 6 years, and then it was too cold for me. And my sister already settled down in Hawaii, and she said, why do you want to stick in that cold, snowy place? So I went in, let me see, 76. I went to Hawaii for a vacation, and then I loved it. So my sister talked me into open a Chinese restaurant there, and that's what I did.
Okay.
So I run a Chinese restaurant, with my 2 sisters and my husband, and 4 of us. We ran a restaurant for 2 years, and then I decided restaurant is not for me. I'd be better off sitting on the table rather than work in the kitchen or wait on people.
Well, tonight we have 4 very different professions.
Yeah,
Restaurateur,
I really,
right? A fisherman,
yeah,
engineer, and a physician, surgeon, right?
yeah.
And, well, okay, Paul, let's hear your next part.
I had to go back to Taiwan. So after 1 year, in 1952, I went back to Taiwan. And you know that all these people come out and they're called 访问学者. And so all 35 访问学者and 1 fisherman. So I went back and I was forced into that category. I was called a 学者. I never went to school. I was still a high school dropout. So I went back there, but I was promoted to 技正. It's a senior technician. And I was got a higher salary in the and I was instead of one ship, 1 boat that I sank on there, I got 3 boats to in charge with. So, and then I was asked to build at that time, they said, well, we're fishing out all the fish in Taiwan, and we have to go think of something else. So we said, let's go develop in the Indian Ocean. So I built the first ocean-going fishing boats in Taiwan, and to go fishing there. But before that, before this, the boat, I built 2 boats at the same time as to go to Indian Ocean. But before I go into Indian Ocean, I read a newspaper, a notice again. This time was not a scholarship program. It was a yacht race, transatlantic yacht race from America to Sweden. So when I was fishing, I love sailing boats, but I never set foot on sailing boats. And in China, if you go to China in the early days, you go to China and there's all sailing boats. And in fact, in the what they call China Coast Pilot in the British Royal Navy, and the first first sentence is that the first thing you see in China coast is the junk. If you see the junk, you know that you're in China. So there are a lot of, I see them handle the weather and handle the sail. And I always wanted to get on one of those. So when I saw this yacht race, I wrote a letter to the yacht club. I said, would you consider in accepting a Chinese junk? 2 weeks later, I got a telegram. Your Chinese junk accepted, stop. Race start in Newport, Rhode Island, stop. Race on, get here on before June 11th, 1955, stop. Where's my junk? I had no junk. It was just an idea. I never thought that. So what am I going to do? I got this telegram. I said, well, I have to get a junk. I have to get it prepared and fit, get it fit.
And a crew.
Yeah. No, well, before that, just let's talk about ship. I have to get all the papers. I have to get the custom paper, the surveyor paper, and the ship paper, and all these things, paper, and then exit permits and sailing permits and all these things. And then I have to get a crew, and then with the crew, I have to get them the passport, the visa, and the exit permit. And at that time, the draft age in Taiwan is 45, and we were 20-some-year-olds. Now, well, I have to go to the draft board to argue with them and have them give us a permit to go. And then also fishing boat at that time is considered by the Kuomintang as a people's navy. That means if in case they want to fight to go back to the mainland, they're going to use the fishing boats to go back. And so we have to get excuse from that. And then at the same time, no, there's a martial law in Taiwan, and then nobody's allowed to go out. They only give two kinds of passports: official business and student. You have to have a scholarship, and you have to take a 留学考试. You have to take an exam, otherwise you got scholarship no good. I don't know why they want that. They try to send the good people to America, I guess. Well, anyway, and then both the Chinese government and the American government wants hostel. They have to have hostel. And I have friends, they wanted to go and they go to get married some girls. And there are some girls said, oh, you give me $500, I'll marry you paper-wise, that kind of thing. So you have to have a hostage in Taiwan. And the American government also want a hostage, because American government don't want you to stay in America, and the Chinese don't want you to go to mainland China. So all this kind of thing. And then you have to get a provision. I mean, the food and everything. And then after that, I have to sail the boat from Taiwan to the west coast of the United States, and then go down this coast to Panama Canal, and go through the Panama Canal, go up the east coast. I know those two coasts because I sailed those two coasts when I was a fisherman in 51 in there. So that's no problem. But I've never sailed across the Pacific. I've just sailed. So all these things. So if I start to consider one by one, never get started. So I said, let's go one at a time. So I started with finding the boat, and then lo and behold, by April 4th, I got everything and we set sail. I couldn't believe it. I just couldn't believe it. I got 5 people, me, six together. We pulled out with firecrackers flying, and the fireboat came and shoot the spouts and all these, and the Navy boats came and put on the horn and everything. And
what harbor was that?
Keelung. So bells ringing, everything's running. We went out there. We didn't know how to sail. So we struggle, finally got the sail out and out there. And 2 days later, we came back. our mask was stuck in there, our sails were torn, and everything there. And we went back to Taiwan. So at that time, we still, then we have to go through all these investigation, all these things. Finally, we pulled it out in April, 2 weeks later, April 16th, we pulled out, and we vowed, for better or for worse, we would never come back. We'd never return. Oh, before that, I have to do it. 1945, we came back. Oh yeah, I said that. Then 1949, I went to Taiwan, and then 1955. This is 1955. We set sail, and then it took us 114 days to reach the United States. So when we reached the United States, everything went apart. It's not the boat. The boat was all right. The physical condition of the crews are all right, but the mentally that we could not sail on. And I wanted to go sail on, to go around to Europe and go around the world, and only one person wanted to go with me. So there are two of us, so we couldn't go. So I said, well, let's jump ship. So we abandoned ship, and we all came ashore. And I was, 14 years away from school. I have to go back to school. That's the only way to stay. No, because the only way to stay at that time is to get a student visa. So I got a student visa. And so I said, how are we, no, before that, I said, how are we going to do that? I just happened to meet Lim Tongpo's cousin in Berkeley. And he was a big professor in civil engineering. And I met them. I said, well, we want to go back. He said, oh, he says, this is the best school in Berkeley. Just go there. I said, we don't have a diploma. We never finished high school. Never mind. You just go there and tell Professor Lin sent you. So we went there to the registrar who said, you have any diploma? No diploma. Transcript? No transcript. Any proof that you're in school? No, we just dropped out of school. We don't have anything. Well, because Professor Lin sent us there. So he says, well, you know that there is a university across the bay called San Francisco State University. We said, wow, San Francisco State University. And what is Berkeley? We never heard of Berkeley. This is not San Francisco. The name is very good. We said, oh yeah. Well, so we went out there. So they gave us the same runaround. They said, you know, down the street, Ocean Avenue, and there is a university called San Francisco City University, City College. We said, why should we go there? We want to go to Europe. Oh, that one is free of tuition. Absolutely free. You pay $5 for parking, that's all. Wow. We said, wow. So we went there.
It's a community college.
Yeah. So we went there. And we said, well, they said, well, any transcript, anything? No. So, well, then she said, well, we cannot take you. So I was really mad by that time. I was just, my voice is very loud. I have a Siemens voice. So I started shouting, pounding and everything. And there's a door open up from there and came out and said, wait a minute, what is this noise? And said, this guy wants to, he didn't even graduate from high school and all that. Well, they asked me to go to Roosevelt High. Roosevelt High is the adult high. So I said, the buck stops here. I won't go. So this guy said, why? I said, I just came back from the boat, on the boat. So what boat? I said, is that a junk? I said, yeah. So, oh, yeah, he's a boat lover. He was the head of the registrar. He said, I said, what about yours? Oh, you're in. So I got in through the back door. So I stayed there free of tuition 2 years. After that, all my friends are going to either Stanford or Berkeley. So I just take a look and I look at the tuition. Oh, but Stanford is a little bit more expensive, but not very expensive because I have to pay out of state tuition in Berkeley. So finally, But all my friends, they were all poor guys. They all went to Berkeley. So all right, I went to Berkeley. So I went to Berkeley. And I went to Berkeley and I was in engineering, mechanical engineering. So I went there and I had an argument with the professor in relativity. So he wants to get rid of me. So finally he said, go study physics and then I'll talk to you. So, all right, I changed to physics. So I changed from mechanical engineer to physics simply because I had an argument with the professor in relativity. So then after that, I went to know where to go. Oh, so I was the cheapest way to go is I bought a little old car, 1937 Plymouth coupe. And I drove all the way to Washington, to Seattle. I went to University of Washington, but I had to pay tuition over there. So then in summertime, I came back and this guy said, I just went to this university back east. They give me for graduate school, they give me a scholarship. He said, why don't you apply too? I look at that, I said, never heard of that. I said, what is this Northwestern? What is it? He said, well, apply anyway. So I applied. I not only accepted, I got a scholarship. Not scholarship, I did a called research assistantship.
Northeastern.
Northwest, Northwestern.
That's in Chicago.
No, Evanston.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Near
Evanston.
Chicago.
Yeah, medical school is in Chicago, but our campus is in Evanston. So I went there.
That's the same school that Toh-bin is in.
Yeah.
Yeah, same school
university,
and
but
also same school
two-
with
two campuses.
Kong Daifu, Kong Xiangyu. Kong Xiangyu is also from there. So three of us. Oh, no, there's another one guy. There's another, forget who was that. Li Dongming. Li Dongming is also from there. So there are four of us from
Li
Northwestern.
Dongming studied engineering.
Yeah, in Northwestern.
Yeah, I know.
And he's in medicine. I'm in physics.
Oh, I see.
And Kong Daifu is in
Dental.
dentistry. So I think, in fact, Kong Daifu graduated from the same year I did. So it took me 10 years. Now, how did I get through those 10 years? I want to ask you, what kind of work did you do when you were pulling yourself over?
Oh, my. In undergraduate,
No, before the undergraduate. Undergraduate, what did you do to support yourself?
first I worked in the master lock factory.
Oh, you know,
Making those
big lock.
metal locks. And then later on, I worked in a Goodyear tire factory, building those tires during the summer months. During the school year, I couldn't.
You mean you mount the tires for customers?
Make those tires?
Or you make tires?
Yes.
Okay.
They come in sheets and then you have to make it round. And then later on, I worked in the restaurants and things like that. Yeah. Mainly during the summer months, during vacation.
Well, I was not that lucky.
Then in medical school, I worked in the hospital. Yeah.
I see.
Yeah.
I was not that lucky. First thing I said, everybody work restaurant, so I got a job as a waiter.
I want to add one thing. I came in 1954. Korean War ended in 1953. And it was very difficult for me as a Chinese boy to look for jobs because all the jobs were given to so-called GI, soldiers that came back from the Korean War.
Yeah.
And I found it very difficult to be accepted because they looked at me as a Chinese, as an enemy. And so it was very tough at that time. Yeah.
Talking about enemy, I have to say this, 1951, when I came here, it was just the heat of Korean War. Yeah. And I used to, when I was at home, my parents had English newspaper, a subscribed newspaper all the time. So I don't read English, but I always wanted to look at the comics. And the comics are all these Chinamen are doing laundry, or Chinamen doing opium, and Chinamen doing tongue fight and all this kind of thing. Always Chinamen. So when I came to the United States in 1951, the first thing I saw on the got a piece of a newspaper. The newspaper, that's the stick. I said, what? That's a book. That's a newspaper. So I opened up to the comic thing, and I saw this cartoon, and they still have the same opium smoking Chinese in there, the slanting eye and all this thing. And there's a GI, and I said, bang, bang, bang. The Chinese are coming. Let's go. Let's walk up. I said, oh, since when the Chinese are coming? Let's run. So finally, I said, I read that it was the Chinese are fighting the Americans. I felt so proud. Wow. I said, now they put on comics and saying that the Chinese are coming, let's run. I never in my life, that's the first time. So this time, when I saw America is trying to fight over the Chinese for the gold medal, and I felt so good. I don't care who wins, who got more to a gold medal, but as long as you fight with the Chinese with a gold medal, that means we're doing pretty well. So these two things I never forget. But I was not as lucky as you are. My first things I got a restaurant. Too bad you did not have your restaurant here. Otherwise, I can work with you. I was fired in the evening, and the lady gave me the pay. I said, oh no, you can pay me at the weekend. They said, oh no, don't come tomorrow. So I have to eat. So I said, well, you can come and wash dishes. So I became an expert dishwasher. I washed dishes all the way to sorority house. In Berkeley, I went to the sorority house and washed dishes. And then in Washington, I went to, but that was only, you don't get paid. You only get a meal.
I still wash dishes at home.
Oh, but our pay is to get meal. We pay you. So I want to do all kinds of things. And one thing is that I start to do gardening. And gardening, I don't want to do the gardening in the city. I'll go outside in the suburbs, big house, big garden, because they pay better. So, do you know, I found out that, do you know that they don't have sewer line in the rich people? The rich house don't have sewer line because they're too far away from the city. The city sewer cannot run there. They all have septic tank. So I was made to do septic tank. Then I found out, wow, septic tank can pay a little better. So I do clean septic tank. Well, but you can clean the septic tank, and afterward you get on the bus, everybody put on their nose, and well, you get dirty, and you smell it, really smell. You know, septic tank is the one that your sewer, everything goes down there. So I did that, but then I started to do a little bit better, and then I became a chauffeur. I became a chauffeur to a very rich person. And he owns, his father-in-law owns Merrill Lynch. He owns Safeway stores, and his son owns San Francisco Giants. And I was the chauffeur, and I was in charge of 6 cars. Oh, I love cars. So that's good. I in charge of 6 cars. Even the sons, anything, have to come to me to ask, oh, can I speak out a car? I said, well, let me see. Your old man is in New York. Your mother's in Florida. All right. So I was in charge. I was a sailor, so I can paint. So I paint yachts. I paint masts. I paint houses. Oh, I got no people. You know that Li Jingyang? I painted his house. I was painting, and then this guy standing there painting inside the kitchen. This guy standing under the kitchen with his pajama, he's typing. I said, hey, what are you typing? He said, I'm writing. I said, what do you mean writing? He said, I don't know, something. So finally, I said, what did you write? He said, flower drum song. I said, oh, you are Li Jingyang? So I met all these people. And then
where was his house?
Sausalito, across the bay.
Beautiful city.
And then I also cut trees, big trees I go cut because I can climb. I was a sailor. So one day, and I went to cut Shirley Temple Street.
Oh,
Oh, yeah. So, I was looking forward, all day long was cutting, so I'm gonna, but she never come out. And at noon, her dog ate my lunch. So in the afternoon, I have to cut the tree without it. I was so hungry, you know, when you work, and then at the end, about 5 o'clock, she came out to pay us. Old lady. Old bag, just like an old lady on the streets. Not Shirley Temple anymore.
Without makeup.
Without makeup.
she's a Shirley Temple black pen.
Yeah, black. That's right. It's in down in Palo Alto. Not Palo Alto. Near Palo Alto, there's this place. What they call? What's that place called? Between Palo Alto and San Francisco. So you meet all kinds of people. So I did all kinds of things. I love it because I met all these people and all these big people and everything. It's so people tell me that they said, America is a country of opportunity. I said, I don't see it that way. I see it, America is a country of jobs, because in China, I couldn't find jobs. But in here, I can find jobs anywhere. But opportunity, I don't think so. I said, look, I hate to go to the library to look for a book. You know, go there and then you have to go there and you go this. But I never thought of turning this into something that like Amazon.com. I guess the guy Amazon.com was the guy who tried to fit me, and he got all these books in his garage, and then you can just write to him and he gets you the book and he send it to you. How come I never thought of that? Because, and then I said, I've been in New York. Do you know how they mail documents in New York?
Courier.
No, bicycle.
Yeah, courier.
Yeah, bicycle.
Courier.
They go everywhere. And from one office to another, I saw them all that time. How come I never thought of it when I was in the Hangzhou hotel and coming out and all these students trying to talk, practice their English. Among them was Ma Yun. How come I never thought of doing an Alibaba thing? See, opportunity depends on individual, not depend on the country. So I don't think America is a country of opportunity. I think opportunity is individual, depend on the individual. But jobs, sure, we got more jobs here. Well, I finished. So in 1965, I finished my school. It took me 10 years. My first job I got is in San Francisco, Los Angeles, and I came here to teach, and I taught until now.
We're lucky to have you here.
Oh, I'm lucky to know all these people. But if I had gone anywhere else, I don't know.
I'm reading your book about the ant. Everybody like a piece of ant.
A piece of fly.
Fly. Okay,
Fly.
Ant. Okay, fly.
Oh, you read it?
Yeah.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
But I think you should write a sequel, because you are telling me more story than in that book.
I bought some book, but I didn't. I gave it to somebody. I only bought 5 sets. I only have 5 sets. I'll deliver it to your house.
Somebody took my book. Oh, yeah, here it is.
I'll deliver it to your house. Okay.
We have more story to tell than what's in the book. I think you should write more.
Thank you.
I have 3 volumes.
Thank you.
I'm writing the 3rd volume now. This is a 2 volume because when I write one book, I send it to them. They say too thick, they won't go on to publish. So I publish in volume 1, volume 2, and I'm writing volume 3 now.
That's great.
You anticipate when we'll finish with the volume 3?
Volume 3, perhaps after I'm gone.
Thank you very much. That's very
Oh, thank you, guys. Thank
remarkable
you, guys.
journey in your life. I'd like to add one thing. When I was in Burma, I went to a high school, and that high school also was attended by Aung San Suu Kyi. You probably heard of
Oh,
her.
yes, yes.
She was 8 years behind me.
Uh-huh.
So we attended the same high school.
We're talking about,
She married an Englishman.
that's right, that's right.
His
But-
name is Michael Harris, and he died of prostate cancer.
Oh, he died. I
He
thought
died-
they got
he
divorced.
died at 53, at age 53.
Wow.
They have two children, Alexander and Kim, two boys. Actually, Aung San Suu Kyi has some relatives living here in Long Beach area, cousins or some relative. Yeah. So one
She's quite
time,
a lady. She's
Hmm?
quite a lady.
she's Nobel Peace Prize laureate. Yeah. But she's very controversial. Outside of Burma, she was respected until she had problem with the Muslim people, the Rohingyas. And so she was very much criticized for her role in that. But
What
she-
become of her now?
she's
House
still
arrest.
she's still
She's still in prison.
still in Burma, in Rangoon. She actually had a house by the lake, some beautiful house.
But
And
was
she
she in
was
like
under
a
house arrest, but she actually lived
Just
there.
like Meng Wanzhou now, house arrest.
Yeah, like a house arrest.
Yeah, she had no freedom of going out of the
Yeah,
country.
yeah, house arrest.
But she could travel within
Mm.
Burma. There was no problem for her.
Right.
And her two sons live in England. Because she married a British citizen, she could not be eligible for high office in the country.
Oh,
Oh.
Oh,
Just
yeah,
like in
I
the
read
United
about that.
States, if you were born in outside of the United States, you
Yeah,
cannot
yeah,
be a
yeah, yeah.
president. Yeah, same kind of
Have to be
regulation.
native.
I was telling them that when I was in Burma, I attended a high school where Aung San Suu Kyi also attended.
Oh, okay.
Anyway, I'll just finish my short. So in 1970, I was invited to come to UCLA to present one of my research papers. So I came down here, and it was in April, and it was a huge blizzard in Toronto. We had to de-ice the airplane in order to get out. When I came here, I saw leaves on the tree, flowers on the lawns, and my old friends from Northwestern Chicago were here, and they said, "Toh-bin, you have to come. You move here. Don't stay in the cold country." So I said, I cannot make a decision. I have to ask my wife, Margaret, and see if she would approve. So April, and then June, I brought Margaret down here, and everybody wanted her to and ask us to move. But in Toronto, I had commitment until end of the year because they assigned me for the lectures and so on and so forth. So we moved end of 1970. So I moved here beginning of 71. And I came here and I got a position as assistant clinical professor at UCLA. But at that time, I came in 71, February 9th, the earthquake hit.
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
That was a big welcome. So I had to adjust my schedule. So that adjustment affected my income. So I had to start to think about a private practice. So in addition to my obligation at university, I had to find a practice. So I did. I started here in San Fernando Valley, and was very fortunate. A lot of friends helped me to get started. So I've been here since 1971.
That's good
I
for you.
retired in 19.
How long were you with Northridge Hospital?
Oh, I actually was busy at the medical school. So I started very slowly at Northridge Hospital, and I started about 1976 or so over there, because at that time they asked me to consider helping them to establish a trauma center at Northridge Hospital.
And then you were with another Hill Hospital.
I was with Holy Cross Hospital.
No, were you in the Granada Hill Hospital as well?
Which hospital?
Granada Hill
Oh,
Hospital.
Granada Hills. Yeah, just briefly before they closed. Yeah.
Yeah, because I think I knew of you
At the Granada
because
Hills.
I designed that building.
You did. Wonderful.
That's why he quit.
I designed two buildings. One is Granada Hill Hospital, and then I also designed the one that still is a surgical center.
Oh, that one, that tall building. I never
Yeah.
was in that building. Yeah.
Yeah, so they tear down the Granada
Yes,
Hill
and
Hospital,
school out
but
of
they
that.
did not tear down the surgical
I don't
center.
know what happened to the other one. Yeah.
Huh?
I don't know what happened to the
What
remaining one.
they tear down to make it into a
School.
school.
Yeah.
Make it a school.
Yeah.
The reason for it is, well, you know, Dr. Detweiler.
Yes.
Okay, Detweiler, a whole bunch of doctor, a lot of Indian doctor,
Yes.
One
He had a group of doctors
Yeah.
with him.
they want to take over.
I see. I didn't know that.
Yeah, they want to take over, and then so he ran out of doctor. Most of the doctor went to Holy Cross,
I see.
and
I
then
wasn't aware of that.
yeah, and then the I try to help him to make a CAT scan, you know, and then to apply to do a CAT scan. The health department won't allow them
I see.
to have a CAT scan. But the doctors say, I'm not going to stay in Granada Hill Hospital because you know CAT scan. So I go, you know, people like you or, you know, I go to Holy Cross because they are CAT scan. So I did the little trick and get the CAT scan in the Granada Hill. The trick was, they say that any equipment more than $500,000 had to be approved by the health department in Sacramento. The CAT scan itself is about $1.5 million. So what I did is I broke into 3 contracts. I broke the thing into 3 designs, three contracts.
So ultimately, you got the CAT
Yeah,
scan.
so we've never did the approval
I see.
because I make sure the contract less than 500,000.
I wasn't too much involved with Granada Hills Hospital at that time.
Yeah. I was very much involved in that because, you know, after that, one,
Interesting. I didn't know all that. Anyway, so I'm very grateful that I made a lot of friends. I got with Chin Long, Lin Chin Long, and Peter Hong, and many other doctors, Chinese doctors. As a matter of fact, I started an organization in the Valley here called Chinese Physician Society, and I was the first president of that organization. We had at that time 38 Chinese doctors in the Valley.
Great. At one time, remember Dr. Lin, the one member of the
Lin
Taiwan.
Long.
Yeah.
Lin Long is now the head of the hospital in Jiayi. Siji.
Huh?
Taiwan.
In Taiwan, yeah.
I know about that. Yeah, I know about that. Yeah.
Oh, we went to visit him.
You did?
Yes. And the hospital is so
He
impressive.
was a chief that-
I just tell you about these. So he and his wife invited us to dinner. So we went to dinner. It was a mess hall. And they said they cannot invite us to their home because the hospital is their home. And they have only a little dormitory room. The two of them stay in the dormitory room.
Lin Jinlong is a very devout Buddhist, and he did a lot of wonderful things for the organization.
Yeah, yeah,
I
no,
really admire him. Yeah.
yeah,
Wonderful person.
yeah. I understand that they even have a TV show
Yes. That's right.
using him as a background. You know about that?
I just want to remind you, it's about 9:35 now. So you started at 7:35. So, you want to consider how much longer you want to.
No, I already finished when you were in there.
Thank you. Let's give Paul a hand.
Well, I wanted to make one more thing. I said Dr. Lim was I called him a barefoot doctor in the valley. And then after he retired, he didn't tell you, he became a barefoot doctor over the world, to Himalayas, to the south,
Yeah,
Amazon River, and everywhere.
yeah,
I was in Africa, East Africa, in
yeah,
Kenya, Uganda.
yeah.
I was in Nepal, 12,000 feet level.
Yeah.
And I was in Peru, in the Amazons. And I was also in Guatemala.
Not Panama.
A real barefoot doctor.
I was, I was in Thailand, Burma,
Yeah.
quite a
What-
few
what-
countries.
So Dr. Lin, how many years were you involved in that Doctor Without Borders? I
Yeah,
mean, I know that you belong to that group.
started in right after my retirement.
Uh-huh,
I retired a little bit early,
uh-huh.
primarily because I felt I was still physically able to travel to
Mhm,
jungles and
Mhm.
remote areas.
Mm,
So I started this work in 1996,
mhm.
and I worked till I was almost 80 or
Wow.
79, because the board said that I'm at the age, in case something happens
Mhm.
in the area, maybe it'll take 2 weeks before the news is out.
Mhm.
So they worry about the facility there and availability of medications and things like that. So they had responsibility for my safety, my welfare. So they advised me not to go anymore.
Mhm.
So I quit about that time. So I traveled about 10 countries, different countries. And they always wanted me to go back. I went to Guatemala 8 times. They
Wow.
kept asking me to go back.
So
It's-
you have
it's-
really seen many, many corners of the world, and especially going into the rural and very
Yes,
poor,
different cultures.
yeah,
different-
underdeveloped
different
areas.
customs.
Mhm.
Most of the people are very grateful, very appreciative, and we don't charge them. I
Mhm.
volunteer and I pay my way there.
Mhm.
And,
mm.
so they are very, very grateful. I learned a lot from that experience.
Mhm.
Different type of diseases and different type of surgical challenge.
Mhm.
I had young kids climbing up a tree 26 feet high, and on a rainy day try to cut leaves for their goats and for his goats, slip and fall unconscious. And here I am, facility is very limited, and I had to do my best to keep him alive, and he did. He was young, and
Mhm.
appreciate that his parents were also very supportive. So he get back to school. Things like that, we don't usually see in this country.
Right.
I also encountered a lot of diseases that we don't see in this country. It was a good experience. I'm grateful
Dr.
that I
Lim,
was
I have
able
a
to do
question.
it when I could.
We watched, Vera and I watched these, not like Doctor with Border, but some kind of thing. They always go to these places where the children are dying, starving, no food, and they're really starving, and then get sick, and all these doctors are there. And I always ask the question. The doctors know very well, if they don't eat themselves, they cannot save the children. Now, how do you have the heart in seeing these children die of hunger and during the day and then go home at night when they serve you, you eat? How can you do that?
Yeah,
I mean, what goes through your mind?
First of all, when you go out to areas like that, you eat whatever they provide. And most of the time it's just vegetables.
No, I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about the children dying without food over there, crying anything. But then the doctors have to eat in order to serve them.
Yes.
It's not what you
eat very simply. Just
yeah,
to
but
maintain
much
your,
better than the children. Much better than children.
maintain your energy.
Yes,
in
yes.
order to.
But when
perform.
you not realize that you eat much better than the children,
When
does
I was
it
in
go-
when I was in Kenya, they were having tribal wars. One tribe fighting another tribe, and fortunately, they did not have guns. Could not afford weapons like that, so they still use arrows most of the time. Arrows and spears and things like that. And one day I was in the middle of surgery, and the nurse came and said, we had the chief, tribal chief that's injured with arrow in the head. And so I quickly finished the surgery and came out, and he was somewhat unconscious. They want to take the arrow out. I said, oh, because if you remove the arrow, you may tear the blood vessel inside. It will cause more damage. So I examined him and tried to get some x-rays, but the x-ray quality was so poor over there. Anyway, I took him to surgery. I'm not a neurosurgeon. In this country, you ask a neurosurgeon to deal with the head injury. So I gathered what instruments they had and I operated on him. And I was able to open the skull and went in gently and then slowly removed the arrow and stopped the bleeding. And for 2 days, he remained unconscious. And one night I got a kind of very urgent call, said, come and see this patient. That was a patient who was unconscious, remained unconscious for 2.5 days. And he woke up and he was screaming. And so the nurse called me and I went there. I said, what is he screaming? What he's talking about? He said he was hungry. And for 2.5 days, he didn't eat except for the IV fluids. And so he gradually, for about 2 weeks, he recovered. And he complained the food in the hospital was so terrible. He wanted to go home, but his home was about 16 miles from the hospital. And in a village, you don't know, you have no control over what circumstances in the village. So finally I said, okay, you go home, but we have to send somebody to check you, make sure you are okay, kind of follow up type of care. So sure enough, 2 weeks later, he came back with 6 young men, warriors, so to speak. And all the young men wanted to talk to me. And also one of the reasons he had to come back because I had to change the dressings. So he came back with 6 young men and they talked in their language and asked me to help them. Finally, with interpreters, I figured out what they wanted was this dressing, the kind of big dressing anyway. And these 6 warriors wanted to have each one to carry one of these for me. I said, why? He said, because we expect our chief to die. And he came here and he lived with this hat. And if they go to war again, they want to have the hat. You cannot laugh because they're serious about that. And things like that happen. things like that happen when you go to cultures like that. It's anyway. So I had to sit down and explain to them. That was not the reason why.
Engles, you actually own an engineering company, is that right?
Yeah.
And you did a lot of business with the city, is that right?
Well, no, actually, when it's starting, from after I got out of school and I worked for the private company, and then after that I worked for the government, for the LA County. For a few years after work for the county, I think that's not what I want. So I come out to say, okay, I will try my own. And then I come out at that time just for the part-time work for the government and in the night and do my own. And then that time when because of work for the government, so I got some relationship with the client. So I got some client, and then after I try out about 2 years. After 2 years, a part-time on my own, and then I quit county. So come out completely, 100% my own. And so from started over there, and I think it's pretty good. I've been doing well.
Who are your major customers?
Well, customer that just by word, by mouth.
I mean, who are just your customer? What kind of government or private?
No. Yeah, government. After I worked for several years on my own, government asked me to, get a contract from the government, from the LA County. And also state also asked me something like that. And I said, no, I don't. Because I work for the government, I thought all the paperwork. You have to sit down every day for the meetings and the conference, all these things. You don't have a really time to work on those things. Okay, so I said, no, I don't want. So my clients are all the developers, owners, and developers, and all those architectural companies. Yeah, architectural companies, because they want a consultant. So
what type
all
of
those,
engineering firm is yours? It's
Yeah.
construction? What type? What type of work does it do?
civil.
Civil, okay.
Civil and subdivision. Subdivision involved all kinds of engineering, mostly the civil. So I worked at that until now. I'm retired.
Angela, would you like to talk about a little bit about the library you are separate from China?
Well, everything started from a phone call from Paul in 1982 summer, and I got a phone call from him. Do you want to go to China? I say, yeah. He said, you can get the free airplane ticket, and that's how I started to go to China. And then then I see how backward things are, especially the rural library. And that's how the whole thing started. Yeah. But I'm getting very cold. I think we should probably,
Yeah. Okay. Well, Paul, you have any concluding remark?
Well, the conclusion is that I just cannot believe that China is like this today. I could not even dream of China one day could stand up like this in the international arena. In all aspects, Olympic, art, and science, and that they are in my field of quantum physics, and they're way ahead of the whole world. And I just cannot imagine. I just cannot imagine. I'm so glad that I lived this long to see it.
I'd like to add one thing is that the press and the media, news media in this country sometimes do not really paint the good picture or the true picture of China. For instance, we have a lot of bad news about Xinjiang. I was invited to go to Urumqi to teach laparoscopic surgery. They had the equipment, but nobody could know how to use the equipment. That was in 1980s. There was very new technology, and the hospital was very beautiful, very well built, well designed, and the Muslim, the Islamic people did not appreciate that, and we taught the doctors, the surgeons there how to use, and they were grateful. I was surprised to see that Urumqi was so modern. Have you been to Urumqi?
No,
the
before
streets
that.
are wide.
Before it was modern. When I was there, it was not modern.
Yeah, but when I went there, was the public library was so modern, and hospitals were so well built, and they wanted to have new equipment, and they did have the equipment, but not knowing how to use it. So I went there and taught them how to use it, and they were very appreciative. Things like that want to come out in the news. I mean, they don't share.
Well, I just take one. I have to quote Biden one thing that made me really realize what China was. And Biden said one thing, and he said, on my watch, I will not let China advance. So read into it. Why would you say that? Would I say that to an African country? So when he said that, made me feel so great. I feel so great.
Well, I think that's a good point to conclude. Thank you all very much.
Thank you.
And thanks, Jeff, for the technical support. We hope that our meeting, also viewers are very satisfied tonight.
Thank you for hosting.
Well,
Thank you.
Yeah,
it's
thank
my
you.
pleasure.
That's very good. Thank you.
Yeah, 谢谢，谢谢，听你。